Hi guys, and welcome back. We have a few chilies that we've been picking from the greenhouse, and I think it's time to do something with them. I love fermenting things, so let's do that today. We have a few interesting ones. We have the Naga Brain chocolate and the Habanero 7 pot in there. Over here we have the white and red Bhut Jolokia. And here we have the Habanero Fruit Burst. These ones over here, and the 7-pot Primo. These are devilishly hot, so let's get started with this. So the first thing we want to do is to make the brine. So as always, I use just over a 2% brine. So I do 2% and then just a little bit more. I just add a touch bit more. So probably edges on to 3%. But anything above 2% and you're doing well. I wouldn't suggest 5%. Anything over 5% I think is a little too salty, and you might not like the flavor. Still safe to do it, it will still ferment, but it's not ideal. So first things first, let's just set that for 0, and let's fill it up with some water. So that there is 1.6 kilograms, about 1600 milliliters. So we need to add in enough salt to bring it up to just over 2%. So 2% of 1600 is about 32 grams. Well, there's 32 grams on the dot actually. I'm going to add 36 to 38 grams. Like I said, to bring it just over 2%. There we go. So I'm using just plain sea salt crystals. You want to make sure that you use salt that hasn't got any additives or preservatives in, anything like that, or any anti-caking agents, because that will just make a bit of a problem for you. So we're going to stir that salt in, make sure that it's fully dissolved, and then get on to actually preparing the peppers. So there we go, it's almost fully dissolved. By the time we use it, it will be just right. These are the jars I'm using today. I got them quite cheap on Amazon actually. Really like these. Just under £2 for a jar. They come with a lid of course, but the way I do my fermentation, I don't need the lid because I'm going to use little plastic bags. So I'll put a link down in the description of where I got them and the price. I'm going to prepare my onion. This is what I'm going to use to keep the peppers down underneath the liquid. Now prepare the garlic. I'm just going to use 1 clove in these. These are 500 ml jars, so 1 clove in each I think is more than enough. So now that we have prepared the garlic and the onion, it's time to do the peppers. But before I do that, I'm just going to give the garlic a little crush and put that in. It just gives it a bit more surface area to actually start fermenting. Okay, now it's time for the gloves. These are all really hot peppers, so you really have to be careful. So the first ones I'm going to do today are these Bhut Jolokias, red and white Bhut Jolokias. I'm going to take the stalk off of them and cut them in half and stick them in the jar. Very simple. Very strong smelling. And you can see I am leaving the seeds in because when we make the sauce, we're going to mash the puree through a sieve and then make sure that you keep all the seeds out and the pulp. If you did want to use the pulp, then you might want to consider taking the seeds out at this time, but that's really up to you. There we go. So we filled that up. And you can see there's lots of gaps in there, so we can really squish that down. And you want to squeeze it down as much as you can, compress it down. It's okay if it gets a bit bruised, but this is why we're wearing gloves. You really do not want these juices on your hands. So there you go. We've pushed that down quite a bit. Now what you want to do is take a piece of onion. It's not a problem if it breaks. It's not the end of the world. You can just fold that around like that. So let's get that in there. There we go. That should keep things under. Now, because I've made sure that this is clean as I can get it. I've sterilized it in some boiling water. I've cleaned off the peppers themselves. And of course, I've got my brine here at the right salinity. So basically, as long as you don't allow oxygen to get in, so you make sure you have the plastic bag over, which I'll show you in a little while. As long as you have that, as long as you don't allow the oxygen in, you should be fine. But the big thing here is to try and keep things submerged, try and keep them underwater or under the saline. Now, you don't want to fill it up too much. I've made the mistake in the past sometimes, getting a bit too eager with this and filling the saline up just a bit too high. You can see there's still some air bubbles in there we need to get rid of. But if you fill it up too high, then all that's going to happen is the liquid's going to be pushed up. It's going to be pushed up and the liquid's going to come out the top, and that's not a good thing. The other thing you want to do is make a bit of a hole in the top of the onion. You don't want the bubbles collecting up underneath the onion. That one's done. We can move on to the next one. So this one here, I'm going to do my Naga Brain chocolates. I think these are my new favorite peppers. The flavor on them is just incredible, and yeah, the heat is insane. Now we seal it up with a bit of onion. Like we did before, we just make a bit of a slit in it, make sure that any bubbles can come up. That one is just 7-pot Primos and will be ridiculous. All that we've got left now are the Habanero 7-pots. So I'm mixing the Habanero 7-pots with the Habanero Fruit Burst. Pretty sure that it'll make little to no difference. Oh, that's a lovely smelling pepper. Put that one there, that's done. So this last jar is just going to be a mix of quite a few peppers that I freshly picked today. There's some Bhut Jolokias in there, even a jalapeno or two. Chocolate Bhut Jolokia. What else we got in here? I think I even put in a 7-pot Primo. So we fill that up, and that's the last one done. And then it's just time to make sure you make it impossible for the oxygen to get in, and also so that the CO2 can get out, the byproduct of the fermentation. So before I put the plastic bags over the tops, I need to just put some labels on these. It's important to label them because if you're doing this for like a couple months where you're fermenting a whole bunch of things, you don't want to forget what you've done, especially if you have a mixture of really, really hot stuff and some not so hot. You need to make sure you know what you got. And also it's important to put in the dates. So first thing we'll do is the Red Bhut Jolokia. I have some ferments that I might leave for quite a long time, so it's important to remember how long you've actually had them. So we've got their labels now. Let's get the packets on the top. Just normal bag, jiffy bag or whatever you've got. Stick it over the top. Take an elastic band and put that over. So that'll allow air out and won't allow anything to come back in. If you've kept everything clean, you should be fine, even if there's something sticking up above. So you can see there, that's sticking up a little bit above the water. It will probably go a bluish color, like it'll oxidize, but it shouldn't be too bad. But we'll keep an eye on it. If it does go bad, you just take that piece off and put something else on top. As long as your peppers underneath are submerged, then you should be fine. You can always throw the onion away at a later stage. What's nice with this method is, I think I've showed you before on a video, you'll be able to see that it's working, that the fermentation is working, because this will bubble up. It'll get a lot of pressure and the air will pop up at the top there. So it's quite a cool way to look as well. I do have other ways of doing it. I'll show you a little bit after, or when I go put this away, I'll show you some other ways that I do the fermentation using airlocks and things like that. But all these methods work just as well as each other. You just got to keep in mind the basic concept of keeping air out and allowing it to breathe, to let the CO2 out when it needs to. So don't let the oxygen get in, but let the CO2 get out. So that's that, ready to go. Let's go and put them in their resting place for now. So this here is my brewing fridge. I brew beers as well, as you can see down there. Got a few that are ready to go, and inside here there's a few that are getting ready. Making some elderberry wine down there as well, or cider. So because it's getting into the winter season now, trying to control the temperatures is a little bit of a challenge sometimes, and really you want to keep things at around room temperature, especially when you're brewing beer, but also when you're fermenting things. So these here, just to start them off, I'm going to get them all to be at 20 degrees. You can see here at the moment it's busy heating up, but this is set to 20 degrees. When it gets below 20, then I have a little heating element down the bottom there, heats up this fridge, bit of a fan to circulate things, and if it gets too hot, then the fridge kicks in and cools everything down back to 20 degrees. So that's all controlled with this little thing over here. Anyway, so when I ferment, you've seen before, I sometimes put it in the cupboard in the kitchen, but I find it a bit easier if I can actually control the temperature specifically. So what I'll do is I'll be putting it inside this just to make sure that if it does overflow, if the liquid does come out the top, that it's not going to go all over the fridge and make a mess. So we just use a little washing up bucket. We stick them all in there and then put them in the fridge, and that just keeps everything nice and clean. And that's that. So just leave that for about a week. I'll come check on it every couple of days just to see how they're doing, make sure there's no problems, and I'll keep you updated. So I thought it might be useful to show you some of the other fermentations that I have going. Some of these going for a little while, so this one since August. And you can see there's stuff sticking out the top, but there's no real problem there. There's nothing green, nothing black, nothing happening here. This is a 7-pot Brine strain with some pears that I picked out in the garden. This one here, again, you can see I'm using these little airlocks, but you see there's no real problems here. There's no algae or any funky stuff going on the top here. I mean, that black over there, that's just the color of the pear. But these have been fermenting for a while. I had them in the fermentation fridge, and then obviously after about 2 or 3 weeks, then I take them out and put them out here, and they carry on fermenting slowly, a bit slower than what they would in the fridge because the temperature in here is not as high. And here's my final one. I really like this jar. It's not cheap, but that's really cool, really funky. And you can see again, there's stuff on the top there, but no problem whatsoever. And this has been going since the beginning of August. So over a month and a half. And as you can see, keep it clean, keep the air out, and you'll have no problems whatsoever. These 3 here, might give them maybe 6 months, maybe even a year. We'll see how it goes. And this is for a future video. I've been experimenting with some buffalo style hot sauce using my Naga Brain chocolates. And I must say, I'm very impressed with the recipe I came up with. I think this video is getting long enough. I'm gonna stop it here and we'll let out the next part maybe in a week's time once I've checked on what's going on with the fermentation, and let you see how it's getting on. So please subscribe if you want to get alerted to the next video, and just generally subscribe if you want to see some more content like this, some updates from my greenhouse, updates from the garden, and the sauce videos that I've got coming. Obviously got the buffalo hot wings sauce there that I've made. It's really good. Tried it the other night. So hot, but really tasty. If you like your hot wings, you're gonna like this. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you again next time.